asked me about the DNA and the things, I'm not an authority on that. But considering the Great Basin wilderness of America alone, which comprises of more than, well, at least 47 ecosystems, that's riverways and mountain ranges, and primitive people didn't know about the other ones probably and entirely of their existence. And they snag blood from other places to fill their gene pool. Well, we have a mixture there of different races of people with different dispensations of time.
Really? I didn't know that.
Hey, we're trying to have a talk here. And so if we have that going on, you're bound to have some carryovers from different sources.
Yes.
And because the Neanderthal, and name it what you want to, it didn't stop all overnight. Mm-hmm. It didn't just come to a conclusion on day one or something. Yeah. So we see, I'm not the last word, but I do believe that there's still blood out there in the wilderness that we haven't ever even thought about being out there because it carries over in a particular bloodline of the DNA of that gene pool. Mm-hmm. And so it has to be, can't be just one species of Sasquatch, Bigfoot, call it what you want to. It has to have mixtures and they have to have a gene pool addition occasionally and might be human. I mean, one of us. And there is many abduction stories out there. We can't prove them all entirely, but there are abduction stories to the point where there's no doubt in my mind that these, I don't call them Bigfoot myself, I use the word that people do, but they're furrow wild people. Mm-hmm. Now, furrow wild people might include ancient Chinese, who come here in not large numbers, and Native Americans, every Caucasian race you want to go to, and mixtures of everything that come to North America in the time they came here. And they predate Columbus quite a bit, and I won't go into all that, but I do know that.
Yes.
And they were brought here from the Eurasian forests and other parts of the world. I've been in Australia on this too, and I've even found yowie tracks that match the ones in Montana, where I come from. And I couldn't wait to get back to compare them because they were so close to, in Australia when I saw those yowie tracks. And down there's two kinds, and they aren't quite the same. Now, I'm not going to take the floor forever here, but I've traveled many years in the United States and Canada some, and Mexico some, and other places. But I do find that there's differences of these creatures in size tremendously different. They aren't all huge, but there are big feet. Where the Bigfoot exists, there are big feet. Mm-hmm. And so they have to have. I got one of the largest ones I've ever seen, ever heard of, is 24 and a half inches long.
Wow, that's huge.
And that's, it's in the, right now it's in ghosthuntingtheories.com collection, and on the internet you can see it. And it's
where was that from?
Idaho.
Oh, in Idaho, okay.
And Ron Moorhead, I won't give more on his dimensions, but he's got one that's close to that, and he wouldn't mind me saying that. And Ron Moorhead's a valid explorer.
Yes, absolutely.
And we work together sometimes. But anyway, to answer your question, what are they? We're close right now on. They vary quite a bit, and you get into Native American stories and all the Lovelock cave stories. You start seeing the possibility of them being a very complex creature. Mm-hmm. Right here in Nebraska, I'm surprised what you have here. I'm really amazed because I came back 4th time now. I first came through here, I told you before, on a freight train as a kid. Got lost in the cornfields out here 4 days before I got to a farmer's house. And he, where the hell did you get here? How'd you get here? I said, well, we ate a lot of corn. We don't know. We got to track it out. But anyway, then I come back as an adult, not too long ago, first time. Yeah. And the riverways here tell me what you want to know. There's amazing collective forests in this state. When you take all the river drainages, the Platte and so on, there's endless forests in this state.
We have more rivers per square. We have more rivers, miles of rivers than any state in the country.
Well, when you start considering the animal history, I don't know all of it, but in ancient times, Wild West times and before that, they had to have a lot of, the buffalo came here for water.
Sure.
And they came here for grass. But I mean, I'm saying all the animals go around waterways, and we have in this state, you have waterways that are comparable to the western states I live in your own kind of right, your kind of way. And I just drove in here a couple of days ago, and I see the waterways again. I drove down to a couple of them just to see what they're doing on water mountain. It's kind of drying up right now a little bit. They got ponds, and that's a plus to me because you start getting a chance to get tracks. We're going to go down, Art and I, this weekend and with Joe Taylor from the Museum of Texas and do a little search for possible tracks of what's around here now, and it might be some very surprising ones, that are more than just Bigfoot down here. And I don't want to sound mysterious, but there's talk here of the chupacabra too. And I think I saw one on the way in here, hit on the highway coming in. And I didn't know what it was, and I was horrified when I first saw it bouncing around the highway with its head smashed. I couldn't make its face out, and I'm pretty good on identification of animals, zoology, pretty good. And I couldn't see anything I ever saw before. I first thought I saw a human being. I thought I saw a child because it was a skin color, no hair, and it was doing almost cartwheels on the highway from death throes, and I put that on my mind because a child couldn't do that, or no adult, a human being might have enough energy, but that creature was. I got in here in the museum and seen Joe's display in here right now. You can see it, and it was very much like that one.
Okay.
And I called Joe on the phone and I said, "What did I see?" He told me I might have saw a chupacabra.
A what? What do you call it?
A chupacabra. If I say it right or wrong, but it's a creature that's unknown, four-legged creature that is not a Sasquatch at all. This one was about 30 pounds heavy, like a big turkey.
What?
Didn't get it.
But we won't go there here more than that. But it's one that is not controversial entirely because
Were you supposed to go to the
Harriet's had 4 reports of them right here, and he's seen one. He said Art saw it before in the state.
So it's
But getting back to we can get to our original question. What are they?
yeah.
And you told me what you want to repeat it there again, but I'll tell you you're close because if you want to go into it biblically, there's 1 or 2 places you can compare it to a little bit. But in the book of Jasher, which is not the Bible, the Jewish history of the Old Testament, it tells about the Tower of Babel in historical ways, not religious ways, but as a history.
Yes.
And it describes the same thing as seen in the King James Version, which is only a little paragraph or 2, but this is kind of pages of story. It identifies Nimrod and the amount of people who were killed outright, the fusion of tongues, and it also has the words in there pretty close to paraphrase as he also created people that were like apes, not apes, like apes. And with you imagine that it's a curse almost because they were not God-fearing and not God-knowledgeable. He just kind of, you might see, in my opinion, they're accursed people.
Yes.
Not necessarily bad, but cursed in their knowledge of what their communications are braiding, breaking 3 breaks off, things they want to identify. They might have it's my opinion, they might have a real desire to join us, and they can't, but they do adapt beyond our possibilities to adapt to them. They adapt to us. So they don't have a reason to nap arrowheads. They're broken glass everywhere. I'm just going to show you how deductive reasoning shows you, like Sherlock Holmes, there's many things that common sense tells you that people don't even consider. So when they come around and make noises around places and they answer 3 knocks, I don't do any more of that. It does work, but they don't come to you. They just tell you they're there.
Yeah.
It's almost humorous. They're very humorous in what they do. And these ropes right here show you what they do. And braiding horse braids is possible, but I can't go there entirely on that for them doing that. But there's more theories. I've done it for 40 years on horse braids. I'm still doing it. But
So you said did you say Nimrod you thought created them? Is that what was said?
no, Nimrod was killed outright when they had the Tower of Babel. But according to the book of Jasher and the Bible too, but I'm not going to go preaching, but
Yeah. I am very.
if he did confuse the tongues and make the languages, and did scatter the people throughout the world, and did put 1/3 of them like apes to wander the earth. Then you go into Indian history, East Indian, you get Hindu man, you get Brahmanish styles, and you go on and on. There's a lot of things to consider. And then Nagas beliefs, terrible things.
Yes.
And we are so, not dumbed down exactly, but uneducated to be educated. We take for granted that people tell us what the truth is, and we haven't able to search the difference. So the Sasquatch, to me, is a mixture of things. I've seen 14 of them. And They weren't all the same exactly. I saw one of closest youth through a screen window one time.
Wow.
And that changed my life.
I bet.
Because it wasn't what you thought it should be in the way it should look. It's more like us.
What can you describe the color of its skin or face, or what
Well,
did you,
that's
what
the
all did you
hardest
see?
thing. M.K. Davis, who I worked with pretty close, I went down to Mississippi and I spent some time with clay trying to make I'm not an artist exactly, but I made a clay effigy. I still can't do it. Happened in 2006, I could not put the eyes in there proper. And the eyes are so expressive and so much intelligent that to this day I cannot even tell you more than I'm telling you now.
Sure.
In a second glance, like that long, you see in their intelligence is massive, and it goes into their own ability to survive. But it's beyond our knowledge. And you know the strength they have, you couldn't catch one. You couldn't physically catch one without getting tore apart. I mean, this guy was no bigger than this, probably you or me, or a little bit taller. I don't know how tall you are, but it wasn't more than 5'10". And it was a full adult male. And they came to this, I had a call from people who had a repetitious visitor during July in a place in Idaho. I won't give the detail, but I put the camera in there and I was setting it up for the evening, and I didn't have it plugged in yet. Lo and behold, here comes this creature, about almost dusk, coming up to the window, looking at it all around. Well, the screen was blocking off how screen windows can do. You couldn't see into it, you couldn't see out of it in certain angles. He didn't see me, and he looking trying to, or see into the house. And I was, wow. But I couldn't see him only when I turned a certain way, and he came back twice.
Wow.
But I saw him from the pubic hair up to his head,
Oh, okay. So
and not
you
below. And the pubic hair, I didn't see any more below, but I did see that much to realize he's absolutely a physical example of the Arm and Hammer salt man you might see on the salt box. You know what I mean? He wasn't Arnold, but he was one strong-looking character.
Yeah, very defined muscles.
And I see he's also had some good breeding in that way. I mean, he was a mixture of something. But then the ones I saw recently down in Bluff Creek, we've been there 15 times, M.K. and I. The Patterson film is reason to verify that and so on. But I seen them last, it's been almost 2 years ago now. It was a year ago, I guess, a year and a half ago. I seen two of them then, and then I seen a child with them, a teenager, and they were too far away to identify, but they could tell the male and female, gender differences in them coming toward me, and it was quite happenstance. And it was a long story. I could tell how it happened. I was carrying out some of the baggage we left behind and going back and forth from getting it. And I just looked over my shoulder, and it was afternoon, and they were coming out of the brush up the trail behind me, and they weren't pursuing me. They just happened to walk out. And it was about 250 yards, which is far enough where a rifle shot, you could hit an animal, but you have to be a darn good shot to place the bullet where you want to, but that's hard to see the face too. The features I couldn't identify, but they have. I've seen them in Bluff Creek and taken casts down there. I've got more casts than people realize. But what they are now, their DNA has to have a lot of humanity into it.